Yeah, well, my dad was raised very tough. His father died young. He was in France. That's how he met my grandmother from Belgium. But they were very, very good on music, the whole family. So I remember my dad always saying, my older brother, he raised us. And he played the accordion. So he would steal the accordion, my dad, and go in his room high, and my uncle would beat him up because he would say, you're never gonna be an accordionist. So my dad did everything he could. He was playing the accordion and the foot pedal like a drum. In those days, you did everything. And my dad ended up to be very successful. He built an orchestra, women and men, about 12 of them. He played for the Red Cross with like 2,000 people. He played in Radio Luxembourg, Radio Paris, the big, and he would play, in Little Town for just Saturday night dance. But my dad was special. But it was those days where, you were in a little town, Homécourt, Briey, Jeff, just like here, Argyle, Redwood. If you were in Paris and you were living there, my dad could have been somebody well known. It's quite a story, the way they were raised. And they were poor. And he was beaten, but he still played the accordion. Being right on a German board, we were the very first one to get occupied by the German, and we were the last one to be liberated. When the German came, I had to be 8 years old. I remember school being taken over, and when they came, because the boots, boom, boom. The teacher froze, pushed the door, and grabbed those kids, 3 kids, into their desk by their neck and threw them like animals. And we know where they were going. And this is the door we used to walk through if we didn't want to go to the main door. That's our school. During the war, the Germans up on the wall up here had put a lot of the Russian prisoner, not soldier. They had put the grills still there where they were behind. So at 4 heures, at 4 o'clock, it'd be time for le goûter, which means you had a little snack. Like today the kids bring a snack. So we go out to the cour outside, and they would put their hands try and get a piece of our food. They were prisoners. They were suffering. They were Russian, but the German had them there. Everybody would bring them a piece through the wire, and they would pass us this little wood soldier like, and that I remember very well. But we were under the dictation of the German. But the Germans took our school at night to have their party. So, we were not allowed. Boy, when we got home from school, boom, you were in. 10 o'clock, you liked to be off. And when the German came on that sidewalk and our windows were, you could hear them boom, boom, boom. And then they checked for your light at 10 o'clock at night. You had to shut your lights, otherwise it was big trouble. My mother wasn't afraid. She told one German one day, 10 o'clock, he went with his gun on the door, and she came out, and whatever you were studying, sign language like I did when I came here, the light, it's past 10 o'clock. And my mother said to him, you have my husband, but you're never gonna get me and my child. And yet, my mom said one day, you know, this German soldier came to me and said, would you let me take your little girl to the store up the road in Omigo, get some candy? I have a daughter in Germany about her age, and I think of her, and I just would love to get her. My mom said, yeah, take her. My mom let me go hand by hand with the German. I couldn't believe, I don't remember that. I had to be very young. And he took me up to the magasin, and he bought me some candy, and I don't remember that. But I remember my mom said, he was a good guy. He was German, but we did very few. And we had never served a German. But I don't remember because my mother and her sister didn't want to serve them because their husband was taken prisoner by the German, and they had a hate for the Germans. So they were not going to serve them. But the Germans were so powerful that if they wanted a drink, they would have took over the bar themselves and do it. I lived with fear all my life. The siren came, boy, you just better be sharp. Don't count on anybody, but you just run across the street. When the siren came on during the war, we knew, get out. And this was the place we all hide. Well, I guess, what would you call it? A shelter. Et moi, je passais là 1000 fois par jour. Date de la guerre, hein? Ça, c'était quand il faut que je regarde derrière.
Derrière, c'est comment, hein? Derrière, ça a changé. Ça a changé.
Oh, voilà. Oui, comment on appelle ça? Moi, je me suis confuse avec le français et l'anglais. The shelter. So the shelter tellers were right here, and everybody would run. Mais c'était en sous-terre. Underground, of course. Yeah. But the thing, it was right across from our bar, from where we live. And I do remember once we came out, and all the glasses from, you saw the glasses of the bar, but all these windows, everything was down. And that's when they jumped the bridge, and I couldn't go to my grandmother with the bike. We could not go from one place to the other. And you just stay in a shelter like little puppies, but you were happy as a child. You had the adult with you. You counted on them, you know? "18 years old, till not too long ago, the kids you met in France, they had to go to the service at 18. It was the law. And when they took these guys, they were all young. My dad, when he was prisoner, just before the German took him, he was a soldier for France. He was doing his service militaire. That was a must. That's when the German took all these guys. The Gestapo came in the door and knocked and said to my mother, you must give us his accordion. We want his accordion, no detail. My mother, she had to. She gave my dad accordion. So what my dad did, he would write to my mom. He played for the Gestapo. Every night they would have parties with the woman, whatever it wasn't, you know, stuff you don't talk about. But my dad played for them because he could play anything. And they fed him what they were eating. And the leftover, they would say, take that under the tent. And he fed his buddies. But without, we really believe without the accordion, my dad would have never came back. He resented it to do it. He resented it. But you know what? You live or you die. Because these are all kids, men that died. I was born 45. That's when the war ended up. It's the way it was. It was the war. And being so close to Germany, we were the first one to be occupied, and we were the last one to be liberated. For us, the war never really ended up till the end of 1945. The Germans were all up in the woods hiding, and people were taking their flag out, like right here, it's still there, the spot to put the flag, my mom and her sister. And then people in town were running, get your flag in, get your flags in. The Germans are in the wood, we're not liberated. Right in the end, as the war was coming to an end, the German, they put all these guys in a concentration, let them die there. But that's how my dad stayed almost a year in a hospital to get back to health. When he came back, I wish I could find, I don't know what happened to the picture. My dad was, I figure out he was born in 1911. My Lord, he was just a young man when he came back from the war. I was scared of him. He looked like he was 80. He looked so old. And my dad was pretty much one of the last to be sent home because of his health. This is one of that I'll never forget. My dad told me he had a diary that he kept. On this day, they took all the babies from the mother, threw them in the air, and shoot them like pigeons. All they knew, not their mom, their dad, their brother, sister, no, the leader. And if the leader said, you're going to shoot the whole family, they did it. After the story he told us, my mom took the book and burned it. She said, Pierre, no more, no more. The war ended, and like I said, my dad came home. Meanwhile, the Americans came all along the lawn in the back of our restaurant bar. There was those big tank, and us little kids, we were so happy to bring cognac that our mother had given us from the bar. Mostly cognac that I remember, brandy, no wine, no whiskey, none of that I recall, but just to thank the soldier. We knew then the war was over. You want to go to the cemetery in Saint-Avold, where it was the Ligne Maginot. And unfortunately, nobody never told us about, because my husband would have been there. Every visit that we did, he would have been there. That was, to me, so emotional that I cannot even start talking about it. This tomb, all the years of my war, as I call it, my war. 1942, 1941, 41, 1944, Texas, California, New Jersey, all these young boys, and they all died for me. And it was so emotional. When we went to Normandy, that touched me, but not like Saint-Avold, because those guys died close to me, and it was so emotional.